Okay, so the last step in this weaving process is going to be weaving the top enclosure of your bag. Once you've woven all the way up to the top of the main pouch, that's going to be about 10 centimeters tall, you're going to stop weaving circularly around the entire loom and you're actually just going to start to weave on one side. So when I do a tabby weave across, instead of going around the edge like we've been doing, I'm just going to wrap the needle around the side of that warp thread and make sure that I'm not pulling it out of shape. So you'll continue this process until you've got about another 5 to 8 centimeters, depending how large you want the lid to be, and then you're ready to close off your loom. So for me, I'm looking at the bottom right in my loom, that little tail that I left in the first weaving, and the bottom warp thread that was taped on. Ignore that mine's off the loom right now. You just need to tie those two pieces together like I'm demonstrating here so that that's not going to unravel before you take that off the loom and continue the process that I'm about to show you now. So I'm going to just cut 2 warp threads at a time and tie them on the front and the back. And I need to do a double knot here. Make sure that it's nice and tight so that the whole thing doesn't unravel. And then that last tail from the top, I'm going to tie into that warp thread too. So you can see me going back and forth now from the front to the back. Flipping over, those 2 that I just cut are now going to be the 2 that I tie off. And like I said, just do 2 at a time so that you don't have to worry about things unraveling. So make your way across the loom, tying off each warp thread. At the top, my weaving started to come a little bit loose, and so I'm just pushing that down as I go and making sure that my warp threads are keeping the compacted weaving in place. And at the end, I've got 1 extra, so I'm just going to go back to the previous row and tie that one off as well. So don't worry if you have odd numbers. Then I'm going to go along and trim those cords just so they're out of the way. The warp threads don't need to be left long. For me, it's just to get them out of the way, but I don't want them too short yet because I still want to go back and tighten them up a little bit more before I finish up the whole thing. But I just want them out of the way while I'm getting them off the loom. And if you wish, you can leave them long if you wanted to braid them or something like that. It's your choice. But I'm just going to take it off the loom and you'll see as I pull it off, it just naturally flips itself inside out. And ignore that I forgot to tie off that last warp thread. Do it before like I showed, and then those weaving that you did along the bottom will end up just from the front and back combining together to close off the bottom. So if you want to just like fix it up a little bit, refine it a little bit, you can go ahead and trim those last little knots and tie them nice and tightly and you're good to go.